let's go ahead and start here. Arthur Smith saying yesterday, Desmond Ridder is light years ahead of most young quarterbacks. There's no Matt Ryan anymore in Atlanta, no Calvin Ridley. Mariota penciled in as the starter. What are the chances we see Ridder this season, though, Pearce? What do you think?
It's great that he's looking good this early, but I don't think we're going to see much of him. The Falcons it's not a good team. No reason to rush him in there and to feed him to the wolves. We've seen that go really badly for other young quarterbacks, first-round picks, mind you, that they have shoved and fed to the wolves or the lions and then just never really were able to recover. We've seen other quarterbacks fare well that set out their first season, or at least set out the first half of the season. And when we look at those guys, we're talking about quarterbacks who were premier elite first-round picks. Ridder was a third-round pick. Typically, when we look at third-round picks, no one is even considering them starting in their first season, maybe even in their second season. I think there's very little chance that we see Ridder this year. If we do, then it's probably a really bad sign for the Falcons.
All right, Geoff, I'm going to give this kid plenty of credit because he had plenty of experience, 4 years Cincinnati, went to the college football playoff as a senior. Now it appears there's a chance he could beat out Marcus Mariota in training camp and become QB1 down there.
Yeah, I mean, Pearce is right from the perspective of he's a third-round pick, so like we don't want to build him up too much. But at the same time, like Ridder's a very interesting prospect. I mean, I know a lot of people, and myself included, we're pretty high on him. He's got a quick release. He's very mobile. Like he's got speed. He's got legitimate speed. And, his only real kind of downfall was just some weird accuracy issues where it seemed like he has a good throwing motion, but he just wasn't that accurate on certain like mid-tier and like longer throws to the outside. So if he can clean that up, I think there's actually a lot of potential for Desmond Ridder. I'm not really shocked that there's some good signs coming out of him early. The other thing you have to look at this is, and I do think you will see Ridder start games this year, he's only got to beat out Marcus Mariota. I'm actually like Marcus Mariota for fantasy purposes this year, but there is going to be stretches where Marcus Mariota probably isn't that good because that's kind of what got him out of a starting job in the first place. He's just really not that accurate a quarterback anyway. So of course Atlanta's going to be bad this year. And of course they're going to want to see what they have in Ridder later in the year. Is it the smartest thing to do? No, I kind of agree with Pearce that way, but NFL franchises aren't that smart. They're probably going to throw this guy to the wolves at some point. I think you will see Ridder at some point. I'm very interested to see how this quarterback battle goes out. I think there is a slight chance too. You see this guy start. Look, we've seen it with Russell Wilson before. I think that you've got a kind of a similar prospect in Ridder with intriguing upside from a rushing and just a throwing standpoint. So I'm high on Ridder. I won't really be shocked in any of these scenarios, but expect to see him start at least one game for the Falcons this year, in my opinion.
All right, guys, let's go to New York here, too, because for some reason the Jets have become like a trendy Super Bowl pick, and the Jets' first-round pick from 2020, that's Mekhi Becton, he said he's going to make critics eat their words. So he's very important to protecting Zach Wilson. Everyone is on the line. They beefed it up a little bit in free agency as well. How are you viewing a young Jets offense for fantasy purposes here, Geoff?
Yeah. So, the Jets are going to have their offensive line, like Becton, whatever. If he bounces back, great. I don't really like it when guys come out. Just do your work on the field.
Yeah.
And make us shut up with your actions
and then
instead
talk.
of your words.
I agree.
We know that the eating the W's doesn't work from Jameis Winston. So enough of this eating stuff. Like it's not really going to work out, guys. As their offensive line just lacks depth. And I'm not sure how much better it's actually going to be this year. And I think that is going to be a slight problem for week-to-week consistency. Now, you've got Elijah Moore, who's getting great targeting down the stretch. I expect that to continue. And I would prefer him over their first-round pick from this year. I think that you're more likely going to see Moore stay on the outside, get those longer targets, and I think his targeting will stay pretty strong. So I'm high on Elijah Moore and Zach Wilson, especially for DFS, using them as potentially, as comeback plays or as stacking partners as well. So I think that Elijah Moore is a player that you should be very high on this year, but, take it with the Jets offense is still going to be like week to week, perhaps poor. And I think that you'll see Zach Wilson also suffer as a result.
Pearce, after years of fantasy football irrelevancy, could the Jets offense finally reappear on the fantasy radar?
Well, they could if you read the Jets blog that I checked out. No, it wasn't written by Kenny Ducey, but in this Jets blog, which references PFF. Yeah, shout out to Kenny.
Yeah.
So PFF at the end of the season ranked the Jets offensive line as the 11th best in football. And if you look at the individual performances of each lineman, analytically, they're really good. Now, the thing is, they never really played together. They dealt with injuries, and for whatever reasons, it just never really gelled. And so you had Zach Wilson with the worst bad pass rate in the league, the worst on-target rate in the league, the worst pressure rate in the league. He was hurried more than any quarterback. But, hey, PFF says, hey, if you look at these guys individually and look at their metrics, they are studs. And Becton checks out, Vera Carter, I believe. Every single lineman on that line is top tier. Their worst is a 75 graded center, which is still a pretty solid offensive line. So maybe, after an offseason of gelling, and if they can stay healthy, that should help Wilson out. But again, Wilson's got to make better passes, not hold on to the ball as long, and then maybe he can get it to Elijah Moore and the receivers.
I mean, maybe they have more fantasy football relevancy this season than their division rival, the Patriots. We'll see. But former Patriot Julian Edelman, little teaser here, says, I don't know. We'll see, when asked about a return to the NFL to play with Brady in Tampa. That was at an appearance in Croatia last weekend. He said, it would most likely need to be the Patriots, not the Bucs, if he did come back. But question is here, Geoff, how bad could the Patriots use him right now?
I mean, look, having a veteran like Julian Edelman, sure. I mean, that's great. I mean, I feel like what Jakobi Meyers brings to that team is probably a little bit better right now, just in terms of, where Julian Edelman is in age and stuff like that. So, I mean, yeah, it's not exactly a deep receiving core for New England. Devontae Parker will certainly get hurt at some point as well. So, I mean, that'll be a factor. I really feel with Edelman, though, he can say whatever he wants. And I'm interested to know why he was in Croatia, but we'll talk about that after the show.
Yeah.
I think that with Julian Edelman, what he's doing is he's going to sit back and he's going to watch what the Bucs do this year. And do they get injury issues? Does Russell Gage get injured or something like that? Does Gronk come back and they need that extra veteran presence? Are the Bucs just winning the division outright and he can just slot in and go for that Super Bowl run? I'm pretty sure that's what Edelman's plan is. I don't care what he says about, maybe I'll go to the Patriots. What value is there at this point in his career and going back to the Patriots and just being like a role player for them for a season where they might go like 10-7 or something like that? I think that Edelman, if he comes back, it's got to be the Bucs. Like, it's just got to be. So I don't know. Yeah, the Patriots could absolutely use him. They don't have a deep receiving core, and like I said, Parker, I'm just not sold on. Period as a player. So that would be good for them if he did come back, but I just don't see that happening personally.
And you and I have talked before. Like, Parker, I believe, has only played one season, like all 16 regular season games. But by the way, he was making an appearance here, Geoff, at the Sunset Sports Media Festival in Croatia. Okay, so there's the answer. There's the answer to that. Pearce, his teaser, it's really nothing more than just that. Still only 36, and those nagging injuries can feel a little better, right, after a few seasons off?
Oh, only 36.
Hey, yeah, but look at him, bro. He's chiseled.
89 in football here is Emerson.
He looks like he's been chiseled.
Variety who takes all those hits that he's taken. I mean, I can't believe he's even considering it. From the Patriots' perspective, like Geoff mentioned, this is already Myers' role. Now, Jakobi Meyers really hasn't blossomed into what he was supposed to be. He probably won't at this point. But if they bring in Edelman, that's going to really slow his growth and development. It's probably just going to be the end of Jakobi Meyers. I don't see that happening. And again, Jeff's right. The Bucs is the place for him. He can get that dirty yardage role, the slot guy underneath. It makes sense. He's got the bromance. I think the bromance is much stronger with Tom Brady than it is with the Patriots and Belichick. Yeah. And you can wait halfway through the season. I don't think you wait halfway through the season to sign with the Patriots.
No, you're right.
Still, I'll throw this out there. I think Cole Beasley would be a great fit for the Bucs, but we shall see.